Hi, welcome to GTA 5 o'clock. This is our weekly 5 o'clock look at GTA 5, as the name suggests. I'm here with Dan Dawkins. Hello, Dan.
Hello there, Tim.
Dan is an expert on GTA. He's played all the games. He knows everything about them. But more importantly, he predicted a year ago exactly what we've been seeing in the trailers last week. So he's the man to talk to us about GTA, which is why we rope him into this weekly get-together. I'm Tim Weaver. I don't know whether I said that. I've been talking so much, I've forgotten already. But anyway, we're going to crack on. This week, we're going to look at rumours. There's been a ton of rumours that hit before the trailers. And Dan's been forensically going through them and seeing what of those rumours came true, what may still come true, and what we can officially debunk. There's some really interesting stuff here. So, Dan, why don't you kick us off?
Well, the main thing to isolate is that back in the past there were 3 major leaks that at the time were, dissected and talked about, but we had no way of gauging how accurate they actually were. Now, in light of trailer 2, which shows off an awful lot of the game, plus the huge Game Informer article which confirms an awful lot of things, we can go back and effectively mark like a little naughty tick list of all the rumours so far. So the mother of all rumours, and this is going back to March 2011, which is even before the first trailer. Rockstar's Hollywood casting company, called Telsey and Company, put out a casting call called Rush. Now this, obviously in itself didn't link itself to GTA, but Telsey and Company have got form because previously they cast for GTA 4 under the project name Frozen. So this Rush casting call broadly, listed a cast of modern-day Hollywood set FBI agents, soccer moms, inbred hillbillies, conspiracy theories, Hollywood wannabes, publicists, triads. Really broad sweep of characters, which sounded very, very GTA at the time. Now, looking back, this all sounds like very, very plausible and very correct. Now, the thing to note is that what is wrong about the Rush casting call is that none of the names in it, the actual names that they cast for, seem to have emerged so far. And it's from the Rush casting call, the big internet rumour, one that I propagated, about the lead characters being like Albert and Simon De Silva. Albert De Silva being the Ned Luke middle-aged man character. Yeah. Now, obviously, he's not called Albert De Silva, he's called Michael. So, broadly, something has changed, most likely the names. Yeah. Or it could be that this entire casting call is rubbish. But if you look at it, most of the broad themes it talks about are correct.
I mean, it's not unusual for filmmakers in the film industry to send out casting calls and attach, for want of a better word, fake names to characters to prevent spoilers. So the fact that he has a different name doesn't necessarily mean anything. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a deliberate thing. It could just be that they were trying to disguise their intentions, their plot. And we know that they're very, of all the companies, are very secretive about exactly what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think an interesting thing at the time is that they cast for a main amount of characters, and then there was a side casting call where that's in fact where Albert and Simon De Silva were cast, and as a result people speculated they were cast separately because they were the most significant characters. Now, we haven't got full character profiles for those people, but they're indirectly referenced through casting to other people. So, for example, Simon De Silva, who we could have assumed was Albert's brother. Now, there's a character called Nervous Jerry, who was listed in the first casting call, who's 48 and a paranoiac living in the sticks. Now, we do know there are sticks regions in Los Santos and kind of a hillbilly area. It says he lives near Simon. He says he's paranoid and terrified of Simon. Now, if you look at the character of Trevor, who's confirmed in GTA 5, he is one serious nutcase. Yeah. And if there's a guy to be scared of, it's pretty much him. Yeah. Now, again, it's speculation, but could it be that, the idea was always to have kind of Albert, who's the dad figure, who's become Michael, twinned against, a brother or just a broad archetype of a nutcase, who's turned out to be Trevor. So, it could be, again, the broad sweeps of the casting was correct, but they've just changed the names.
Yeah, I mean, they, like you say, they could have originally, maybe at some point they could have been brothers in an early version of GTA. Because at the moment, Michael and Trevor are sort of best or former best friends. I think I'm correct in saying that have kind of drifted apart, but are now pulled back together for the one last job kind of scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if they're going to be family. Probably not.
No, they won't be, I'm sure. But maybe at one stage they were, or maybe it's like I say, it's an effort to disguise Rockstar's real intentions. But it's interesting stuff.
Yeah. Also, to lend some credence to the idea that names can change, is that there was a slightly later casting call in the year. This is in June 2011, where they looked for a character called Marco, who was described as a 25 to 28-year-old male from the United States, young Mexican FBI agent, has a strong sense of humour and likes to hang out with friends. Now, in the casting call like a few months earlier, they'd looked for a guy called Miguel Gonzalez, who was also 25 and a young Mexican-American FBI agent who was caught between some mob bosses. Now, it could be it was the same guy and they've just renamed him and slightly recast him, or slightly recut the script to change him. Or, it could be two different people. But either way, I think it shows that perhaps the script was a work in progress, and as long as the broad things were there, they could move on from it. What's very interesting in the second casting call from June 2011 is there's a series of characters who are of Irish descent. One's Jeffrey, who's sort of in his 40s, Irish, tall and athletic build, and it says lost his money by gambling, recently started working for his stepbrother, he's a bit of a loony. And this is the most significant, another character called Eddie McCreary, and that name should be familiar to you, who's a 40 to 50-year-old male from the United States of Irish origin. He lives with his cousin, smokes weed and loves partying. Now, McCreary is the name of the Irish gangster family in GTA 4, who we're really familiar with. And at the end of GTA 4, we see Packy McCreary getting on a plane to, well, let's find out. Now, the houses have said that there will be the potential for characters returning within sort of the next-gen series of GTAs. So GTA 4 characters could appear in GTA 5. So Packy McCreary, to me, seems like my lock of the week.
Yeah. They've come out and said that they've no characters from the before GTA 4 will ever appear in the sort of 3D in the HD realm, because they see them as very different games. But as we know from San Andreas and Vice City and the the PSP spin-offs and that sort of stuff, there's lots of character interchanging and appearances and that sort of stuff. So I think there's a good chance that might actually happen. It's that Packy McCreary thing sounds very, very plausible given what we know. Yeah,
I think it does. And as a little bit of a tidbit, I don't know if this is going to turn out to be true or not, but there was doing the rounds a plane ticket on the Rockstar networks with Nico Bellic's name on it, and it had a plane ticket from Liberty City to Los Santos. Well, not Los Santos, sorry, San Andreas.
Right. Okay.
Now, again, this might have been created at a time when they didn't know what the actual final name was going to be, but it'd be interesting to see if Nico Bellic makes an appearance. Also, more interesting when we consider it in the light of a rumour we'll come to in a minute. Final point to make is that in one of the later casting calls, there's a character called Samantha, who's 20 to 25 years old, female US civilian. So she's a young female obsessed with sex parties, always dreaming of being a Hollywood celebrity. Now, to look at the poster art they've revealed so far, there's one character who is being arrested, like a young lady who looks not unlike Lindsay Lohan. Now, if you were to profile Lindsay Lohan, it wouldn't be unlike that profile you just made there. So again, this might lend some credence to actually the broadcast list and the type of people they're looking to get.
Okay, so you've had a look at the trailer. Now you can apply some of these rumours to the trailer. You can see quite a lot of this stuff echoing through the trailer, through both trailers, through the screenshots, through Game Informer's article, through the stuff that's been on sites like The Guardian, and hopefully Dan's analysis has given you a real idea of where GTA are heading here. We'll be back next week at the same time, 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, with even more on GTA 5. But until then, we'll say goodbye.
Goodbye.